The Final Furlong podcast is presented by 1xBet Ireland. With over 7,000 events available every day, fast withdrawals, and exclusive new customer offers, 1xBet puts you in control. 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. And now, here's your host, Emmet Kennedy.
Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast RaceiQ special for Cheltenham 2026. With the festival fast approaching, we're going to be using RaceiQ's GPS technology, capturing stride patterns, jumping efficiency, entry speed into fences and hurdles, and the finishing sectionals to give us that different perspective on the form book with the always brilliant Paige Fuller. Welcome back to the show, Paige.
Thanks for having me again.
And we're going to go straight into the action because we've got a lot of racing to cover. So we're going to first of all look at the Supreme Novice Hurdle, where the favourite with 1xBet in Ireland is All Park Star for Nicky Henderson. But what does the RaceiQ data tell us about him and the leading contenders for the Supreme?
The key thing for me with All Park Star is, we know at Cheltenham that from the top of the hill, you've got to be able to sustain your speed down the hill. You've got to be able to quicken up with the field and then also maintain it up the home straight. And I think that for me is what Old Park Star has done exceptionally in his races so far. So to contextualise his sort of finishing pace, I know that it's a sort of not necessarily an apple versus apple comparison, but Old Park Star is the only horse to have completed a final half mile in less than 53 seconds. And he's done that on 2 occasions. So he's displayed the sort of sustained speed that he needs. And actually his final half mile at the track in the December meeting sits in the top 10 fastest final half mile at the track. And we're taking that from about, just over 2,000 runners. So, granted, I do think at the December meeting, the ground was a bit quicker than the jockeys were expecting it to be. So he had a lot of fast finishes at Cheltenham at that December meeting. But he's demonstrated that sustained speed that I think you need to win a Supreme Novices Hurdle. Talk
the Talk, I know, is a horse whose data at the DRF you're very impressed with. And El Kairos is basically the fastest horse in the lineup overall.
If the weather continues, I don't know how it's been over in Ireland with you, but I've taken my poor ex-racehorse's rug off about 3 times in the last 2 weeks because he's, it's like 15, 16 degrees over here. And of course, the ground's soft at the moment, but we all know how quickly Cheltenham dries out. And if they don't get any rain, it's probably going to be just beautiful, good soft ground. If that's the case, I think Old Park Star deserves to be that price. I think if it did happen to rain and eased up the ground, talk. I wouldn't say he's overpriced because I don't think he's got the sustained. Well, he's got good sustained speed, but not quite like Old Park Star. I think what he did at the DRF was very impressive. He was stuck a long way back, and I'm sure most people have heard about the sectional upgrade that you should be giving him for that run. He was sat quite a long way off the pace, and even though visually he looked workmanlike, he actually was quickening up past horses that were also quickening. And that as a racehorse is very difficult to do. And his final half mile was, I think, the fastest of the whole DRF over obstacles. I'll just have to, it was really quite a fast final half mile. But I just don't know whether he'll be able to do that against Old Park Star on good soft ground, really. El Kairos is the one who's got a sharp turn of foot, but I'm not convinced that his jumping is going to stand up to this step up in grade, to be honest. I think he obviously fell when he should have won 2 starts ago. And then he quickened up really well when he won last time. Got like a 10 out of 10 on the jump index at the second last hurdle. But as soon as he gets that pace in the race, like that guess at the last when he was flying, and it cost him like 6.2 miles an hour over that final hurdle. Just, you can't be doing that in these championship races. And I think he's a smart horse, El Kairos, but I don't know, I have too many question marks over his ability to jump at speed, really, based on what we've seen.
Speaking of the champion bumper form, Idaho Sun, there's a key piece of data that you mentioned. He basically finishes faster than only one other horse in the champion bumper, and the horse who finished fastest than him is the winner, Bambino Fever.
Yeah, and I think, again, I don't. Sometimes being British, you go, am I just like wanting to clasp onto these British horses that are, they're suddenly going to land the Supreme Novices Hurdle, and we get very quickly put back in our box. But I do actually think that Idaho Sun Son's form stacks up way better than people are giving him credit for. As you say, he was another one who was sat quite a long way back in the champion bumper, and I think he was in about 14th position turning for home.
Yes.
But there were only 2 horses in the race that clocked a slower top speed. So of all those runners in the champion bumper, he couldn't quicken down the hill like the others could, which is forgivable for a young horse in a bumper like that. But as you say, his final furlong was the second fastest of the field. It was only Bambino Fever that was faster. And I think what I really like about him was the way he won the Formby Novice hurdles. Because a lot of people went, oh, but my daddy's Paddy, he was just a hype horse. He's got put, he's just not as good as everyone was making him out to be. I don't think that was the case actually at all. I think Idaho's Son just ran him into the ground. Granted, he didn't have to jump any hurdles, but only one of his furlongs in the race was clocked slower than 15 seconds, which for a jumps horse is pretty sustained speed. And his final 9 furlongs were all faster than 14 seconds. And I think that just meant that basically my daddy's Paddy didn't stay. And okay, maybe he's a horse on the back of that, you'd be thinking Turners. But actually, you look at Kopek de Board last season, his average entry speed in the Supreme was the fastest of the whole festival. So we know that horses that win the Supreme just have to be able to gallop fast for 2 miles. And I think Idaho's Son's actually proven that he can do it better than, say, El Caros or Talk the Talk. So I thought he was just an interesting one at a price that actually, might not win, but could definitely give you a bit of return there.
Who is Paige Fuller's pick for the Supreme using the RaceiQ data?
I'm going to be boring for this one and just say Old Park Star. As I say, that December meeting win for me was just, he didn't beat anything at Haydock. We got no grasp on him. But that December meeting win, to me, displayed everything I'd want to see before a Supreme Novice hurdle. So I'm just praying that it keeps the sun stays out.
And the data speaks in his favour. What does it say about No Drama This End for the Turners Novice Hurdle, the 4-1 favourite with 1xbet in Ireland? And some of the jumps profile data that you've got for him is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I think, again, lots of people will sit there and go, but we can see everything with our eyes. And that's fine. Like, I do appreciate that you guys can look at him and go, yes, he's a good jumper. But I'm sure you do a lot of other horses, and he is an exceptionally good jumper for a novice hurdler. Like, I think the key thing with him is he hasn't actually been put under so much pressure that he's been able to learn and progress within his jumping. And actually, I think his jump index of 8.3 sits in the top 0.5% of jump indexes in our database. Like, that is how slick he is over a hurdle.
Are you talking about for novice hurdlers or overall?
Overall. So, like, of all hurdlers in our database, he sits in the top 0.5% of slick jumpers, basically. And I think he's lost less than 2.2 miles an hour on average over his hurdles on every single start. So he's just so slick in the air. And I love the way that he's won both his race at Sandown in the Winter Novice Hurdle and the Challow. Like, for me, they're very contrasting races. And he's a very similar profile horse to the New Lion, who obviously won it last year, where he has won the Challow, which traditionally is a proper stamina test. This year it wasn't at all. The ground was really quick at Newbury at the December meeting, Challow Hurdle Day. And his top speed in the Challow Hurdle was like 36.4 miles an hour, which is the sort of top speed you're going to be hitting down the hill at Cheltenham. And his final half mile time of 51.81 seconds in the Challow is the second fastest final half mile time over obstacles at Newbury that we have in our database from just over 1,000 runners. So we're not talking about a slow horse. Like, yes, he's won at Sandown, yes, he's won the Challow, but don't be fooled, because he is a very speedy horse as well.
You think actually the dream is still alive for Paul Nicholls?
100%. Because I think, again, going back to the New Lion last year, like, he's now going to the Champion Hurdle. In sort of recent years pre that, okay, maybe last year was a bit more of a stamina test. Like, when have you seen the Challow Hurdle being run on nearly good ground at Christmas? Like, it doesn't it doesn't happen very often. And it's normally sort of there for proper future 3-milers. That is not, we're talking about Old Park Star in the last race being one of the only horses in the Supreme Novices hurdle who's clocked a sub 53 seconds final half mile, and No Drama this end completed the final half mile of the Challow hurdle in 51.81 seconds. Like, that is how fast he finished because of the ground. And that's where this season's form is going to be so interesting to pick apart at Cheltenham, because we've had such contrasting conditions from that sort of pre-January time to the last 2 months and the DRF, it's going to be a really interesting unravelling at Cheltenham.
The other grade one form that comes from Ireland is talk the talk. There is a thought process from a number of people that this is the distance that would suit him better. Is there anything in your data that would back that up?
Well, I think, as we've just mentioned in the Supreme, I think his ability to quicken on that softer ground at the DRF was impressive given the conditions, and considering that we're going to be running on quicker ground, will he be able to quicken like he did at the DRF off a really strongly run Supreme, or is he better off just having a slightly lesser cruising speed over 2.5 miles and then quickening like he did at the DRF? Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of, cruising speed. Like, I think we all know the Supreme's just, everyone's got their blood up. It's a fast run race, and a speed horse with a sort of sharp injection of pace, to me, would probably be better suited to the Turners. But that's sort of, again, we've only got 3 years worth of data, so it'll be fun when we can actually objectively say that. But my gut feeling is, I think he's probably got more of a chance in this race than the Supreme.
The hype surrounding Mighty Park is just off the charts. It's not just coming from Willie Mullins, it's coming from people associated with the yard as well. What does the RaceiQ data tell us about that, admittedly, very impressive visually win, but it's still just a maiden hurdle win?
Yeah, trying to get grasp on those sorts of races is just, you go, and it's mad, isn't it? And I remember, the mad thing is, I know when you're in a yard like Willie Mullins, it's completely different, because you're comparing rockets against rockets. But the problem is, at home, a lot of horses can feel like a rocket, and then they get to a track and you're like, what? And so it's amazing how much of a gauge they get on these horses at home, because, as you say, the data isn't, it's not that it's not flattering, but he just hasn't been tested whatsoever. He hasn't been tested at speed. So again, one of our metrics for some of your newer viewers is, so actually I'll give a really quick recap of our jumping metrics just for anyone who's not familiar with it. So each of the jumps on the track, we take in isolation and we measure the speed they approach their fences, the speed they lose over their fences, and the time it takes to recover their speed. So a lot of this year's pack, I've been able to dive in a bit deeper to entry speeds, because ultimately, my perspective, probably slightly biased from my racing times, is that actually a lot of ground track influences on horses is all about the pace you've approached an obstacle. Mighty Park has never approached an obstacle faster than 29.99 miles an hour, and we know that he is going to be tested way faster at Cheltenham. He approached his hurdles on average at 28.5 miles an hour in that win, and his FSP, so his finishing speed percentage, was 100%, which basically said that he finished his final half mile at the same speed proportionately as he completed the whole race. So basically all he did was gallop fairly average speed the whole way around the track, and everything else was away. Now, that is impressive in itself, but in terms of a race education, he hasn't had any whatsoever. He just hacked round. And so the only thing we can go, like you say, the only thing we can go on is what they say at home. But I don't know, even his jumping, he only scored a 6.8 on our jump index and lost 3.3 miles an hour on average at his hurdles, which, when you talk about no drama this end, having never lost more than 2.2 miles an hour on average at his hurdles, it's just such a big step forward for a 9-2 shot that I couldn't be jumping on that bandwagon.
There's 2 other horses you wrote about in the RaceiQ data pack for this race. You wrote in detail about Scarlet Hustle, and you named Active Innocence for Nicky Henderson as the RaceiQ eye catcher. Why?
So I think Active Innocence is being, it's only because he got beaten by Manila Yoga at Newbury, and that form obviously hasn't worked out quite how everyone thought it was going to, that, you know, they've probably slightly written him off. But I think everyone's being quite harsh on him. Like, I know he's still a 10-1 or around that price, 10-1 shot. So, you know, it's not like we're getting really good value with him. But just watching it from a horse person's point of view, we've already touched on how, so he was running at Newbury at Christmas, which we've already touched on with no drama this end. The ground was pretty quick. He had to make the running, which he just didn't look comfortable at all. Like, he was looking around, he looked really green. I don't think Nico couldn't set any pace on him whatsoever. And the race just turned into a complete sprint up the home straight, basically. He wasn't quite as fast through the final half mile as No Drama Descend. He was 52.26 seconds through the final half mile. But that still sits in the top 5 fastest final half miles in our database at Newbury over obstacles. And I think crucially, his jumping just completely faltered. So over the last 3 hurdles, he forfeited nearly 3.5 lengths jumping to Manila Yoga up the home straight. And then he obviously just clattered through the last. And even that mistake in itself, he lost 1.24 lengths just from that bad jump to Manila Yoga, who he was also giving away £20 to. And actually, his jumping overall only rated 7.2 compared to his debut of 7.6. Now, at the Sydney Banks, he just looked way more comfortable, got a lead, slightly soft ground. That would be my only reservation with him. Again, if it was quicker, like, I'm not sure whether that would quite suit him. But it's never going to be like as quick as Newbury was at Christmas. But his jumping was just so much slicker with a lead. He rated 9.1 on the jump index and only lost 1.68 miles an hour on average at his hurdles. And whilst I'm not saying that jumping's going to put him above No Drama this end, I think it just highlights the fact that the horse that turned up at Newbury and got beat by Manila Yoga, giving away £20, definitely was not the same horse that won the Sydney Banks really quite impressively, I thought.
And just very briefly on Skylight Hustle, of those two, of Ballyfad and Skylight Hustle, is Skylight Hustle the one you prefer?
I think so. I struggle to get a real grip on Ballyfad, to be honest. Like, he's another one that, okay, he got beaten a short head at the DRF, but I think Talk would have won by more had we sat close to the pace. I think that's the sort of key piece of information from that. Like, it wasn't like he was just staying on and Talk just got there. Like, they were all quickening. Talk, as we've already mentioned, needs a sectional upgrade for that run, which in itself, I think Skylight Hustle has just got a little less to prove, in my opinion. But that's quite controversial as well, because, as you say, the form is, it's all like circles. I mean, that's the beauty of this year, isn't it? You can literally go from one race to another and you think you've got the form line sorted out. Like, actually, wait till we get to the stairs hurdle. That's going to be fun.
What is your pick for the Turner's Novice Hurdle right now?
Right now, because I played it safe in the last one, I'm just gonna put it out there and say Act of Innocence, because one or the other of them has surely got to win for Nicky Henson. So I'm just going to put all my eggs in the Nicky Henson basket and go, he's going to win one of those races. So
well, the point's been made on more than one occasion that when he has one good novice hurdler, he tends to have two. Probably not going to win the Albert Bartlett, though, or the potato race. Very briefly on this one, because I find the Albert Bartlett to just be a bit of a nightmare race. It goes to a big priced horse. I mean, you'll know this as a former jockey. This is completely alien to these horses. They've never had a gallop like this. They're running in an atmosphere and a track that they've never experienced before. The whole thing's a bit mad. I was really keen on Dr. Steinberg at the DRF, but I wouldn't be keen on backing him at 3-1 for this race.
No, I mean, these sorts of races are always the 3 mile race at Cheltenham. When you're trying to analyse them and find the bits that, I mean, some of them haven't even run over more than 2.5 miles. So you are literally just clutching at straws. Dr. Steinberg's a really interesting one, isn't he? From a horseman's point of view, and also every other form angle, it's how did he run so keen at the DRF and finish like he did. Like, that's, I think, what was so impressive is he's shown speed over 2.5, but he actually still pulled as hard as he did at the DRF and then quickened up really quite impressively. I mean, I don't know, what do you think about Dr. Steinberg? I don't know, I can't get a hand on him.
I thought he did really well to win at the DRF, but it probably wasn't a great race.
Will he have to beat anything better than that? That's the age-old question.
The way he beat the Devil You Know, like, that was a bit of a mess of a race. Devil You Know was massively impressive at Doncaster. I don't think that there's a guarantee that Dr. Steinberg confirms that for him. I don't want to back any horse at a single figure price for this race.
No, and I think you're right. I think with the Devil You Know, he was better suited to a galloping 3 miles, and Dr. Steinberg outsped him when he beat him, at Navan. So, but then again, that makes it. I don't love Riverdon winners going to Cheltenham, because I think there's a big difference to going a nice even gallop. He had an FSP of 102 at Doncaster in the Riverdon. Nice even gallop around a big galloping track. Again, we're talking about that downhill, swinging downhill. Dr. Steinberg, when he was at the DRF, they went an average entry speed of 27.9 miles an hour. So we know that he's going to have a better chance of settling when they're going probably 28, 29 miles an hour on average at Cheltenham. And is the Devil You Know going to be able to quicken up like Dr. Steinberg? I just can't. I just think he's going to get outsped again, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's my gut feeling, but like you say, it's a it's a very open race.
Is there anybody who stands out to you at a big price? There's an obvious one in my mind, and that's Jalan Dideri, who was placed in a champion bumper and just looks like a big backward type. He's a 7-year-old. He's a little bit battle hardened, and he's a typical Gigginstown horse who staying chasers is the horses they're going for, and that's probably what this fella is, and that tends to be the type of horse who wins this race.
I suppose going back to Idaho Sun and the point of, like, he ran well in Cheltenham bumper, champion bumper last year. Like, I personally be going for Turners, because bumper horses are slow horses, aren't they, a lot of the time? Won't be saying that about Bambino Fever. I don't quite know where I sit with her in terms of, I think like a lot of people, where she sits is a different question. But yeah, it's a difficult race. And it's funny because for your readers or your listeners who do decide to download the Cheltenham pack, Clint Madrick sort of pops up a lot within our sort of top speed metrics. So we sort of got a little highlight page where we pull out horses that have done exceptionally well. And Clint Madrick, I think, sort of fills 3 of the 4 sort of sections, because he's sort of really had to quicken up over 2.5 miles. But actually, when he won his win, he's been unlucky in defeat, but I think because they were such falsely run races that he actually wasn't clocking the top speed, even though he got like 36 miles an hour, I think, or 36.63 miles an hour at Foss Laston debut, because it was so falsely run. When he actually had a chance to run over 2.5 on a sort of more galloping test of a race, he actually just performed way better. And I just wonder whether actually his defeats were only because they were falsely run, but he's also shown that speed. I'm kind of clutching at straws here, because I just don't, as you say, it's maybe clutching at straws isn't the right way to say it, but what I'm trying to say is we know that Cheltenham, you need a bit of speed. Jasmine DeVoe last season in the Albert Bartlett injected speed into the race and quickened over 3 miles. And I just wonder whether at a price, Clint Madrick might just actually be worth taking a risk on, because he hasn't been tried over 3 miles. This one, I go and check his form yet. Or he's been pulled out. Can't see him now. Do you have him priced up?
Yeah, he's 20s. 20s at 1xBet right now.
Okay, perfect. That's really, because sometimes you're just clasping at, he's never run over 3 miles, but you never know.
The horse who won this race a year ago was 4.25 lengths in front of Jalan Dideri. It's almost too obvious, and you're getting 20s about him, and he's the right age profile for the race as a 7-year-old. So Jalan Dideri is where my dart is going, but it's a dart. I don't like the Albert Bartlett at all. Very briefly on the juvenile hurdlers, the Triumph Hurdle. A lot of people are going to say that Proactive is a good thing. If you just take that logic, then Macho Man's too big a price, and I've made this point several times, so he's the one I'm going with. But is there anything in the RaceiQ data that's pointing us in the direction of who to be with? Salmon Deveri, Proactive, Maestro Conti, and Manella Study are the ones you zoned in on.
I love, again, it's going to be very ground dependent, but I love Manella Study. I just think for a for a juvenile hurdler, he's got the flat experience, which again, I'm not so au fait with all sort of trends and stuff. Like, I don't know how flat horses fare in the Triumph Hurdle. But I just think that actually he's got this sustained speed, and everyone's going to be like, shut up about the sustained speed. But he's he's another horse. So, right. Last year, Poneros, they went to Good Gallop. We know that they went to Good Gallop in the Triumph because, Poneros basically outstayed everything. Poneros approached his hurdles on average at 31.36 miles an hour. The only two horses that have approached their hurdles on average in a race at that speed so far are Manella Study and Maestro Conti. Now, Maestro Conti, I think, did it at Kempton, which is sort of, you can reach those speeds. But Manella Study has clocked that twice in victory at both Tipperary and Cheltenham. Oh no, sorry, he's in all of his starts, he's clocked an average entry speed of 31.5 miles an hour or faster. So he's got a really high cruising speed. I think that's just because he's got such a big stride on him. So his average stride length of 6.7 meters when he won at Cheltenham is in the top 100 longest average stride lengths at Cheltenham from our 2,800 runners in the database. And I actually wonder whether on the flat, that's just why he got stuck in the mud. Like, you look back on his flat form, and he absolutely flopped on soft ground. He's obviously just a horse that's got a lovely, big, long galloping stride that I think he will be able to make a lot of use of, given that he's probably got more experience than some of the more fancied horses in this race on a racetrack full stop. He's been freshened up nicely. I think he would be my pick, I think, of the lot, personally.
Of the Irish, especially Willie Mullins, anything that really catches your eye?
Yeah, I think closely in behind for me is Selma Devary. I think she can get marked up a lot for her second to Narciso Has at the DRF. Narciso Has is a gorgeous horse. It's gutting not to see him at Cheltenham, isn't it? And considering the hype that was around him after the DRF, I can't believe that Selma Devary is not favourite, because she did really well, considering they were obviously giving her an educational run. Like, it was quite clear that obviously Paul Townend was going out there with one objective, which was to give this horse a nice first educational run in Ireland, and if it fell into his lap, it fell into his lap. But Narciso Has did not stop. I mean, the speed that he galloped through the race and maintained was very impressive. And she was obviously sort of settled mid-division to rear, and she made up 0.94 seconds worth of ground on Narciso Has through 3 of the last 4 furlongs, and then just tired in the final furlong. And in those sorts of conditions that they ran on at the DRF, that's totally understandable. So I think, had the ground been a bit quicker, or had she ridden a bit close to the pace, or had race fitness, which obviously Narciso has had the race fitness as well, I think she definitely needs marking up for that performance. And I cannot understand why Proactive is favourite for this race, personally, given how strong her form was from DRF.
You might have answered your own question there. Homework, Paige.
Yeah, true.
Homework.
comparing rockets against rockets.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Why would Proactive be favoured for this race over Selma Devary? Homework, I suspect.
Yeah.
And it's on that basis that I think Matthew Mann's the bigger price. He was talked about very strongly by Adam Mills on the show not so long ago. And Selma Devary, a lot of the paddock watchers were saying she would improve significantly for that outing at the DRF as well. And that was before the race was even run. And Manella Study, the form was there for everybody to see. And then the data is there for you to see as well. That's the juvenile hurdlers. We're going to switch to the novice chasers in this episode of the Final Furlong podcast, which is brought to you by 1xBet in Ireland. More than 7,000 events for you to get stuck into every single day. Fast withdrawals, new customer sign-up offers. You can sign up now by clicking the link in the episode description. It'll take you right to the 1xBet website in Ireland. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly. Your game, your odds, your 1xBet. Just in time for the Cheltenham Festival. Join now in the Republic of Ireland for your chance to hopefully make fortunes, gamble responsibly and all that for the Cheltenham Festival, with loads of great sign-up offers and loads of great offers to get stuck into. Novice chasers will begin with the Arkle. So what are the clues from the RaceiQ data for the Arkle?
So in terms of co-vective, I think with a couple of these that we're going to go through, my guess is as good as yours. Again, it's so tough and I think it's one thing going as a novice hurdler to the Cheltenham Festival with one run under your belt. Going as a novice chaser with one run under your belt is a big ask, like regardless of what the data says. And I think he just can't have learned that much because, again, just Cheltenham, but he pulled himself to the front, didn't he? And he just grabbed hold of it. They absolutely crawled. They only went 27.3 miles an hour on average into the first four fences, and he's still like quick enough with 111 FSP. But I just, like, what did we learn? Like, he ran keen, he pulled his way to the front. We know that the race is going to be very different at Cheltenham, but we don't know whether he's going to be able to handle that. As I've already mentioned, in the Supreme Novices hurdle last year, his average entry speed of 32.9 miles an hour across the whole race was the fastest the whole festival. So we know that over hurdles he could travel at speed and jump, but he's not, I don't know. I'd love to see him bounce back because you love seeing return Cheltenham Festival winners, but I wouldn't be backing him as favourite. And to be honest, I'm not sure that I'd be backing New Lumber at that price either. I think he's done a lot in victory that's been good, but he's also done a lot in victory that is not wholly convincing, really.
There's 4 good horses at the top of the betting. This does not look like an out-and-out straight shootout between the top 2.
Yeah, and I hope that people don't look back on this race and go, oh, well, it was an average renewal. I think it's only like this because it's so competitive. Like, I was reading, again, I'm not so au fait with all the sort of traditional stats. Like, obviously I look at the data, but has anyone even run in an Arkle that's won 3 grade 1 races? There can't be many horses that have won 3 grade 1 races that have run in the Arkle.
Don't think a horse has ever done it at all, as a novice anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying Romeo Coolio is definitely my choice, but I think people are being rude about him, saying that he's not full of speed. Like, when he won the Racing Post Novice Chase at Christmas, over 2 miles, extended 2 miles, he averaged 31.2 miles an hour approaching the first 4 fences, and he was still able to quicken up to record a top speed of 35 miles per hour and 3 furlongs from home. His final 4 furlong time of 55 seconds was the fastest over fences at that Christmas meeting. And his win time was 6.3 seconds faster than Solness's win time over course and distance the next day. Like, you can't tell me that's a slow horse. Do you know what I mean? He shapes up like a horse that will want further. But then, as you say, so John Won and El Fabiano, that's why John Won's running in the Ryanair.
Yeah.
I think people are being quite rude about him. He wouldn't, I mean, I love Cargisi, so we can get on to her in a minute. But I don't understand why Romeo Coolio, people are even talking about the brown advisories.
Okay, who would your pick be for the Arkle?
I adore Cargisi. I just think she's glorious. I just think so the data's always loved her jumping hurdles and fences, and this year it's just gone, she is magnificent. She is. And I don't need the data to tell me this, but she's a phenomenal jumper of a fence. She's actually the highest chaser in our database over fences. She's 9.0. I think the next highest is like 8.7 out of 10 for a career jump index, because she's just so aggressive. And don't get me wrong, like, our jump index metric measures something very specific, which would be the power of the horse over a fence. But I think that was her Achilles heel on softer ground, because she actually just overexerted herself on softer ground. And funny enough, when she pulled away to the front on Chase debut, her fastest furlong after a mile of 12 seconds is her fastest furlong in all of her races to date in our database. So we're talking hurdles, fences. She just went way too fast, too gassy, race over, and just paid the price there. And both times she's run on soft ground and got tired. She might be a very, very good jumper 99% of the time, but both times she ran on soft ground and made a mistake at the last, which cost her the race. She rated a 4.3 and a 4.5, which is the only time over hurdles or fences that she's rated at an obstacle lower than 6.6. So that just goes to show that was just her completely, emptying out, pulled too hard on soft ground. We've already established, I don't think next Tuesday it's going to be soft ground at Cheltenham. She can travel, she can jump, and, we know that she likes track. As you say, she won the county hurdle easily last season. I love her. And she gets mare's allowance. It's always handy. So, yeah, I like her.
She gave Sergino a fright at Aintree.
Yeah.
This is a serious horse. Now for something completely different. Up in trip to 3 Mile 1 over the Ultimate Trip for the first time for the Brown Advisories. They extend the race out. Final Demand is the 3-1 favourite with 1xbet. Kate Doughty 5-1, his conqueror at the DRF. Wendigo 8-1. What is the RaceiQ data telling us about this race? And is Final Demand a horse that you can trust? Or is it the case that when he goes into proper Grade 1 company, he melts?
I think my gut feeling, based on the data, is that it's the latter. Because I don't know. I can't.
Is this now jockey Paige Fuller or chief RaceiQ data analyst Paige Fuller?
So we are talking about very fine margins here.
Yes.
But the fractions he set at the DRF were marginally faster than his when he won on debut at Navan and at Limerick over Christmas. So again, going back to the average entry speeds, his average entry speed at Navan on debut was 27.4 miles an hour, and it was 27.8 miles an hour at Limerick over Christmas. At the DRF, his average entry speed was 28.7 miles an hour, so about a mile an hour quicker on average through the race. And they wound it up a bit further out. So he averaged just over sort of 27 miles an hour in the first 5 fences of the DRF, which is about the same as Limerick at Christmas. But fences 6 to 10 were approached about a mile an hour faster than Limerick. And the final fences were approached at 30 miles an hour, which is about 2 miles an hour quicker on average than at Limerick. And I just think, a bit like the Turners last year, that sustained pace at this level just finds him out slightly. His jumping fell apart. His jumping on debut was just electric. It was 9.2. It's the joint highest jump index on debut over fences that we've got in our database. But again, you just see that depreciation when he's put under a bit more pressure. And I think this is a way stronger Brown advisory than last year. And I just think he's going to be under an awful lot more pressure.
That brings me to Kate Doughty or Wendigo. If you look at the official ratings, and it's not the same because they're not running in a handicap, but if you look at the official handicapper, I think Kate Doughty is 156, Final Demand is 153 from the Irish handicapper, and then Wendigo is 147. Like if the IHRB handicapper is right, then Kate Doughty's in a different league to this lot, unless Final Demand has a Lazarus-like performance, in which case I'll go with Mark Walsh and Willie Mullins to pull this out of the fire and win another Brown advisory just like they did with Fact to File. Am I right in your opinion?
I think so. I think especially at the prices they're at the moment, like I'd be backing him now if you're going to back him, because I can only see him getting shorter, which I'm sure you'll probably hopefully find out in a minute. But I mean, watching him at Leopardstown, he's just a unit of a horse, isn't he? Like, he is enormous, and he's only a 6-year-old. And actually, the size he is, there is no surprise that he is A, improved for another year under his belt, and B, improved for a fence. And the jump index really highlights how much he's improved for a fence. He was rated a 7.0, 7 out of 10 hurdler on our jump index. So yeah, perfect average, like absolutely fine over hurdles. but his jump index over fences is 8.5. And he is the 10th best chaser in our database. Again, like Cargisi's, like as we just mentioned, leagues above him. But for such a big horse, he is super slick and effective. And
10th best horse, is that novice chasers or overall?
Overall. Yeah, he's far better suited to a fence than a hurdle, that is for sure.
We're getting 5-1 with 1xBet. Let's go! I might have 28-1 as well, which might be another reason why I'm excited.
Well, that is pretty shrewd from you. If you got 28-1, that is very shrewd.
Save that and play it out. That's a sound drop now. We just play that out every now and again. And I did say it on the podcast. I tipped him for the DRF and I said, this horse is 28-1 for the Brown Advisory. So hopefully some people follow the same. Anyway, proceed.
He's not the fastest horse. He's never clocked a top speed faster than 34 miles an hour, which is not that fast, but he's just a proper cruising speed horse. I think all of his chase starts, his average entry speed were just over 29 miles per hour. So he's obviously just got a lovely cruising speed, especially to do that over nearly, well, I know it was a sort of not quite a 3 miles at Leopardstown, but Lecky, for context, in terms of other Brown advisories that we've seen, Lecky Watson last year's winner had an average entry speed of 28.3 miles an hour. In fact, File had an average entry speed of 27.6 when winning in 2024. So, he's got a cruising speed that's well able to take him round Cheltenham at the right speed. Again, talking about final demand, I just think he's going to put final demand under pressure again with other horses like Wendigo, who are going to be pushing that pace on. Wendigo will appreciate not being around Kempton.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think that would be my only caveat with Kate Dorothy, is if there isn't a strong enough gallop that he might get done for toe by something like the Big Westerner. But yeah, I think he's definitely the value for me, for sure.
Kate Doughty, 5-1 with 1xBet in Ireland right now. He's your selection?
I'm going to say yes, but
who's the big danger to him?
I mean, it's a head, heart. I mean, head, again, if there was no pace, I think the Big Westerner is another one. She's not very big, but she's really improved for fence. And I actually think that in the Albert Bartlett last year, she was racing too close to the pace. So Jasmine DeVoe quickened from well off the pace. And I think Big Westerner's she's most effective when she can use her turn of foot. She was sat way too close to the pace, and that sting was just taken out of her tail. So if we're talking about, I'm getting very specific here, but if they were hacking round, I'd be backing her in race, if you know what I mean. Because I think she's a horse that really appreciates quickening. I think in all of her 3 wins, she's got the top speed, and they're the only time she's finished with an FSP faster than 108%. So that's the sort of race she likes to win. I wouldn't be backing her purely because I think she's very tactic specific. But as I say, in race, that would take a bit more interest. But my heart, obviously, I mean, for Jamie Soden to go and win the Brown Advisory, like I've been allowed to sit on him a long time ago. I've even been allowed to sit on him before, so So part of my heart says I'd love to see Wendigo. Sorry, everyone would be like, "Oh, you spent loads of time on this race now, Paige. Will you just move on?" But I need to give him a shout out because Kempton just clearly wasn't his track whatsoever. He was beaten less than 4 lengths before fitted more than 7 lengths to Kitsbull in the jumping department. And his jump index of 7.5 was far lower than his previous 2 races, which shows that he is able to jump a lot better than he did at Kempton. And his final furlong time in that race was nearly half a second faster than Kitsbull, and it was also fractionally faster than his own penultimate furlong. So basically, he galloped really strongly to the line at Kempton. His jumping faltered because of the sharp nature of the track. My heart says I'd love to see it happen, but I don't think it's quite enough to sway me away from Kate Dorothy. But small margins, as we've already mentioned.
Right now, 1xBet will give you 7,000 events to bet on every single day if you're betting in Ireland. Loads of new customer incentive sign-up offers as well on the 1xBet website. Fast withdrawals, which of course, hopefully, you'll be getting your Cheltenham winnings during the greatest show on turf as well. Obviously, 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply as they always do in life. Gamble responsibly. Good crack, great odds. That's 1xBet. Click the link in the episode description. It'll take you right to the 1xBet website in Ireland so that you can hopefully make a few quid for the Cheltenham Festival. We're going to race through the championship races and the key players as Paige sees it from the RaceiQ data. The champion hurdle, the betting with 1xBet in Ireland is headed by the new line, who has been far from convincing. Rumours that Lossiemouth is actually going to end up in the champion hurdle. What is the RaceiQ data telling us about the champion hurdle, Paige?
So the RaceiQ data is saying lay Bryce days ahead. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, I know. I'm just going to start with it because, why not? I just think her run style, she's been there, she's been beaten. I know that Gordon Elliott's on about stabling her in different places and what. Oh, come on, like, in the nicest way possible. Like, I know she's a mare and I know they're quirky, but surely that is literally the definition of clutching at straws. Like, I know I was clutching at straws earlier, but that is the definition of clutching at straws.
Like the fat chick in the milkshake store, just clutching at straws.
Yeah. I just don't think the run style around Cheltenham suits her. She's a hard galloping mare who, just as she showed at Leopardstown at the DRF in defeating Lossiemouth, she jumps, she runs, she stays. But that's not what you need to do at Cheltenham. The average FSP, the average finishing speed percentage of winning hurdlers at Cheltenham is just over 105%. But Brighter Days Ahead has never, each of her wins over 2 miles were gained with finishing speed percentages of 104% or lower, which just sort of reflects the fact that basically, as I said, she jumps, she runs, she gallops, and that's not what wins races around Cheltenham, unfortunately. When she was, everyone's like, if she hadn't got hampered by State Man at the last, she would have won the championship. No, she wouldn't have done. She approached, so her entry speed approaching the final hurdle last year in the champion hurdle was 25.45 miles an hour. That is so slow. Like, hopefully some of the other speeds that we've given you the context of throughout the show so far tells you that 25 miles per hour is not very fast to be going over 2 miles at the last hurdle, especially when Golden Ace was approaching at 28.81 miles an hour. So more than 3 miles an hour quicker than Bryce Days Ahead. She just she can't quicken and sustain that run around Cheltenham. So yeah, there we go. Bryce Days Ahead doesn't win. Can we leave it there and then I don't have to select any of the other ones?
If the champion hurdle was run at Leopardstown, would she win it?
I'd say yes.
But it's not. Okay. Lossiemouth is a Cheltenham horse. Is this the race that would suit her best if they were to go for it?
Good question. I think we'll learn a lot about it. It's amazing that a mare of her age and her sort of role of honour, that we still have question marks over her about this. But I think her win in the Trials Day, that was it, love her, and the way she quickened out that day was very impressive over 2 miles. And she does have, like, crucially for Lossiemouth, she has that finishing kick that's particularly effective over 2.5 miles. Like we've already mentioned, will she have that same finishing kick in a race that's run at a slightly higher pace? I think yes at Cheltenham, because she can get breathers. I think she's a very speed, but it's hard in terms of data because we've only seen her quickening up over 2.5 miles at this grade 1 level.
You're kind of having to go on instinct.
Yeah, and I think my gut sort of says against in this year's renewal, yes, she's good enough for the champion hurdle. But if it was last year's renewal, I'd say actually no, they made the right decision. I think her final half-mile time last year at the festival was the fastest over obstacles. But again, we're not talking about sort of 2 mile sustained speed. We're talking about quickening off fairly steady pace. Again, at Aintree, she approached last 2 hurdles quicker than 35 miles an hour. But actually, they didn't go very fast over the first, the majority of the race. So I don't know. She's not a very pleasant horse to watch, is she? Because she always looks off the bridle, and I don't know. If you back her, you're going to be feeling pretty nervous for the first mile and a half of the race, anyway.
Who is the most likely winner of the Champion Hurdle for Paige Fuller?
I really like the New Lion. I can't see how anything else in the race could beat him. I mean, I know that's really disrespectful to Golden Ace, because actually she's proved that she wasn't just a one-hit wonder. She's won Grade 1 since. You know, she is fast horse. She's got top speed passing 35 miles an hour in 9 of her 12 hurdle races. As I say, she was outstaying Bryce Days ahead last year. She was the best horse in the race, but I know the Unibet wasn't much of a trial, but his final 2 furlong time in the Unibet is the fastest final 2 furlong time in our database at Cheltenham, the New Lion. And we know he stays because he won the Turners. I just think he might have that sustained speed that the others don't. Poneros posted the second fastest final half mile when, you know, everyone sort of says, oh, the race fell into Poneros's lap last year in the Triumph. I wouldn't be so sure. Like, I know he's been disappointing since, but I wouldn't completely write him off, because he was actually quickening. As I say, his final half mile time at Cheltenham last year was second only to Lossiemouth, so he was quickening. But he's a horse who things haven't gone great for him since, and he would have had a tough race in the Irish Champion Hurdle at DRF on pretty bottomless ground. So yeah, it's quite sad, isn't it, when you're sort of reading the news after Southall the other week and you're looking at a Champion Hurdle like this, thinking, I'm not saying, sorry, that's not getting on Constitution Hill, it's generally the state of the 2 mile hurdlers.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad not to have state.
If he could jump, he'd lap this lot, but he can't. So, and
State Man as well. You know, all those horses which, you know, we've kind of got as good benchmarks. It's sad not to have them this year, and I don't know who the answer is, really. To be honest, I could totally see it being, I don't know, Work Ahead, because it's just that sort of division, isn't it? Like, I'm not saying there's anything to suggest it, but do you know what I mean? It's that sort of race this year, isn't it?
I mean, we're expecting Henry de Bromhead's horses to improve, but I don't know if we're expecting them to improve quite that much. Okay, final selection for the Champion Hurdle is?
New Lion.
Okay. If it includes Lossiemouth?
I'm going to be brave, and I'm still going to say the New Lion, actually.
Okay.
I think she will have had I think that could have left a mark on Lossiemouth at Leopardstown. It was a tough race. Okay. She is a mare and she's getting older. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to say it. No price. Everyone's going to be like, oh, that's not being brave. There'll be odds on the day, but.
I wrote weeks ago for an article for 1xBet that this is between 2 horses. It's between Lossiemouth and the New Lion.
Who would you go for?
If Lossiemouth runs, I'd back Lossiemouth. Without question. If she doesn't run, the New Lion will win.
Mars Bar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put a Mars bar with you on that. Yeah, for sure. Mars bar and a latte. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, perfect.
Oat milk.
Jeez, oat milk. Okay. All right.
Extra 50 pence. Sorry. Happy to give you a syrup shot or something.
You and Rose with your oat milk. Oh, dearie me. Proper actual milk, for goodness sakes. Finally, just because we'll just fold the Mare's Hurdle into this, that's a straight shootout if Lossiemouth and Wadu turn up. And if Lossiemouth doesn't turn up, how far does Wadu win by?
I think, again, this race is an interesting one tactically. I actually think that Take No Chances is the value in this race. So this is a mare, again, jumping, very slick, 8.3 out of 10. Yep. Puts her in the top 0.5%, as we've already covered. She is a mare that last year was held up way off the pace. And as we've already covered, the pace wasn't particularly strong last year in the Mare's Hurdle. So she's a horse that sat way off the pace in the Mare's Hurdle. Lossiemouth quickened. She quickened from the back of the field. And I actually think both times behind Lossiemouth last year, she was just outpaced by Lossiemouth. She's since been beaten a neck by strong leader at Wetherby, his home sort of track basically, and then only finished 3.5 lengths behind in Post-Trois. She's run really solid races basically over 3 miles, so she's actually a stayer. So we can almost write off her 2 runs in the mares in behind Lossiemouth last year because they were riding her completely wrong. And so in terms of sectional times in the mares hurdle last year, she was just over a second slower than Lossiemouth through the final half mile, naturally, because Lossiemouth's a very quick horse. But she was 0.89 seconds faster than Jade de Grugy, who was right up at the front. So she was making ground all the way to the line. And you're not going to get a price on World 2. We know that. So I just think that actually with the form that Dan Skelton's in this year, at 14-1, if you've got a few runners, I wouldn't be surprised if she was at least placed. I couldn't pick holes in World 2.
Yeah.
I think she got caught out by pace. Again, if Lossiemouth goes to this, I think Lossiemouth beats her doing handstands.
Yes.
I think the race will
yes.
play out exactly into Lossiemouth's hands again. I think she got caught by speed by Lossiemouth at Aintree last year. I think she's definitely beaten by Lossiemouth. I think she should win this if she doesn't run. I don't know. You've already spoken about the fact that she wouldn't win if Lossiemouth runs. So how confident are we that she's definitely going to win it without her? I don't know. That's sort of my gut instinct with her price and, the situation, really.
I'll put it this way. If Lossiemouth is not in the race, Wadu's odds on. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to back her. The stairs hurdle. Tiapu is the 7-4 favourite with 1xbet in Ireland. Was beaten in the stairs hurdle, wins the stairs hurdle, beaten in the stairs hurdle. Is the trend going to be that now he gets the stairs hurdle back? Because that performance at Leopardstown was pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, and I suppose the main thing to take away from it is that he had race fitness on his side. But I think the main reason why he beat, or certainly turned the tables on Bob Olinger specifically in that race, if you're looking at direct form lines, is the fact that I think Bob Olinger needs a pace collapse, basically. Looking at the data, he benefited last year from a pace collapse. I think basically, they just went too fast on Tihupu last year. And I think they just couldn't make use of he didn't stay. But that's not because he doesn't, it was a classic case of they just went too fast.
Yeah.
When he won the race in 2024, his top speed of like 36 miles an hour down the hill was the fastest of the whole festival over hurdles, I think, or something along those lines. I have to download the RaceiQ Cheltenham Days pack to fill in all my holes that I forget on this podcast. But he was able to use that turn of foot. But last year, he never reached top speed anywhere near that. It was just 35.6, so half a mile an hour slower. It was good ground. He didn't. They went too fast, and Bob Olinger benefited. And I can't see how the pace is going to be as strong this year, given the horses that are entered, is my gut feeling, basically. And I think he should win because of it.
Final selections for the stairs hurdle and danger?
I'm going to go for Tihupu, and I think the danger is Cabral de Matan.
High five. Virtual high five, Paige. There we go. Done. Happy days. Here's the Queen Mother Champion Chase summed up for you. The horse who was challenging at the last year and hasn't been seen since is 7-1 fourth favourite for the race, and Low de Sud is second favourite. How far does Majborough win by if he gets around?
Majborough is like our someone described him once as our albatross, which I thought was really unfair because I think, like we mentioned before, like everyone thinks that he's this horse hanging over the RaceiQ data, like, oh, well, your metrics don't work because you keep rating him really highly. And it's like, well, actually, we rate him really highly because however clumsy he is from A to B, he doesn't lose like any ground on his rival side. If you shut your eyes, if you paused the race sort of 4 strides before a fence, closed your eyes and then paused it, and then opened them 4 strides after the fence, he very rarely like loses any ground. So in terms of like metrics wise, it's like, okay, so what's going on? So he was interesting to dive into for this actually, because ultimately we want to know like why are our metrics doing whatever, because he has been a talking point. But I think actually our metrics This is far enough into the show that hopefully anyone who's listening at this point is genuinely interested in the metrics, not going to post it all over Twitter going, Paige Fuller's an idiot saying Madgebra's the best jumper. But I actually think he's really, really effective. And I think our metrics do a really interesting job of pointing out the fact that this horse has got such a massive engine that he can clout a fence and still maintain his race position. The crucial thing with him, though, is the fact that he's making these mistakes where he's losing lots of speed. But his speed recovery time, so his time that he takes to regain his momentum, ranks the quickest in every single chase race he started in. So he can lose like way more speed than his rivals. But he's getting back up to speed so quick because he's got such a big, massive engine. He can get back up to speed so quick. He's not losing any race position. Now, the problem is that when he gets to the end of the race, if he's done that, made mistakes like we know he can do, he's just got no energy left at the end of the race to quicken. But when he pieces it all together and he doesn't make those mistakes like he did at the DRF, he quickened really impressively at the DRF. I think he hit 33 miles an hour into that. Everyone spoke about how quickly he went at the DRF, and he still hit 33 miles per hour approaching the last fence. Like he should win this. He should win this doing handstands. But if Lotus Sud presses him for the lead, will he just fluff his lines again? That's the only problem. He won't lose race position. Like, he's not going to give any ground away. But if something comes and quickens past him, like RaceiQ, for example, if he hadn't, if his confidence wasn't shot to bit or he wasn't knackered after Clarence House, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm very interested in Quilixius, but not at 7-1. And the fact that Quilixius is 7-1 for this race sort of tells you how weak it is.
So you know who we're backing, man? I think Willie Mullins is going to work his magic.
Tom. Wow.
Yeah. We're talking about what else would you back in the race? And for me, the second best form on good soft ground is RaceiQ. I think Willie Mullins is a maestro. He will not be running that horse if he doesn't think he's got over the Clarence House. The Clarence House was run breakneck speed. RaceiQ in any of his races had never gone as fast over the first four fences as he went in Triumph Hurdle, as he went in the Clarence House. So they went so fast in the Clarence House over the first mile that he was well out of his comfort zone. And prior to that, he was easily favourite for the Champion Chase. So he fell because he had a tyre fall, because we know he doesn't stay on soft ground around Ascot, which is stiff track. Could have left his mark. Don't get me wrong. Could have left his mark. But it's the Willie Mullins magic that I just sort of feel like, actually, if you're talking about all the stats of why we shouldn't be backing Madgeborough, then to me, he's the only other horse in the race that I would back.
The each way patent is Cargizi, Kate Doughty, Ilete Tom right now. Who is the most likely winner of the Gold Cup for Paige Fuller?
Django By.
Why?
So, why? Again, I'm going to do my sort of backwards like I've just done with John Bond. So the Jukebox Man, in my opinion, doesn't win. Purely, and I think the reason why he doesn't win is the reason why Django By will turn the tables on him from Kempton. So Kempton, there were multiple course records broken at Christmas because, again, Christmas ground was really quick. And I think that suited the Jukebox Man rather than Django By. If I quickly run through the Jukebox Man and why, I think it'll make sense quite quickly why I don't think he's the horse for 3 mile 2 round Cheltenham. So in all 4 of his chase starts, he's finished with an FSP higher than 111%, which means that, yeah, again, finishing speed percentage, he's finished his final half mile was 11% quicker than when you compare it against the race as a whole. He's hit top speeds between 34.5 miles an hour and 36.7 miles an hour and approached a fence at 35 miles an hour on all faster in 3 of those races. So he's a real speed horse. His final half mile time in the Quarto Star Chase in 2024 was 52.36 seconds and the fastest at the meeting. It was even faster than Constitution Hill ran in the Christmas Hurdle. And when you look at the King George specifically, he approached fences 2 to 15 in the King George on average at 30.5 miles an hour, and the final 3 fences on average at 34.58 miles an hour. So he really quickened in that race. And he jumped really well. He's never lost more than 3.6 miles an hour on average over his fences. He's a slick, fast, quickening type. Not what I would be looking for a 3 mile 2 Gold Cup. I think, Aintree Bowl, different story, but Gold Cup for me, no. Django By, on the other hand, in King George, we know he likes Cheltenham. He forfeited. He didn't jump very well given the pace. So his jumping was rated 7.3 by our jump index in the King George, which is the lowest he has recorded over fences in our database. The only other time he scored less than 8.2 out of 10 was winning the Arkle last year. So again, I think pace probably caught him out in the Arkle. The Arkle was really strongly run last year. So I think that's a real pace. I think basically if there's too much pace, Django Bly's jumping falls apart, which is not going to happen in the Gold Cup. And because he jumped so poorly, he forfeited at least 3 lengths jumping to each of the first 3 home in the King George. He was like the worst jumper of the first 4 home, basically, and he only went down a short margin. In the Arkle last year, I think his final furlong was faster than his penultimate as well. So even though they went really hard, he really stayed in the Arkle last year. And I just think if you take the King George specifically and look at Django By, I think was hindered by the way the race ran. Jukebox Man was suited. And so I think Django By should turn the tables. And I'm not sure what horse in the race is better than those 2, really. It's kind of the way I look at it.
Okay, let me ask you about some of the others. Gaelic Warrior.
I don't think he'll stay 3 mile 2 pulling the way he does. I think he's going to go too hard in front. Again, not setting it up. It's not going to set up well for Jukebox Man because Gaelic Warrior, they are probably more likely to let him bowl because he burnt himself out at Leopardstown, where they didn't let him bowl. 3 mile 2 round Cheltenham, I think will stretch him. If he, I don't think there's any way that they can make him stay 3 mile 2, basically.
Do you think another way you're thinking is a serious contender for the Gold Cup this year?
So I was really impressed with his win in the Gold Cup last year. I'd like to give him a shout out for how impressive he was in the Gold Cup last year. And his final half mile time is the 5th fastest final half mile time over fence in our database at Cheltenham, regardless of trip. So I think that displays he out quickened Galopan. He outstayed Galopan at that speed last year. And he did it pretty easily. I think it's been pretty disappointing seeing horses turned up this season, and I can't see how the race will set up for him to be able to quicken like he did last year as well. I think they're going to go a much stronger pace, as we know from Gaelic Warrior, and I think I can't see him beating the Jukebox Man, but I think the race would need to pan out like Jukebox Man would want it to for either of them to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it can't happen at all. Howdy Calor.
I definitely think he's more into. I'd rather back Hody Calor than Galopan personally. If we're talking about other options, I think the Betfair Chase was just a write-off. All of his data was just not it wasn't even like he got tested. He just didn't turn up. I think in the Coral Welsh National, he managed to post a faster final furlong than his penultimate, even carrying all that weight. We know he stays, but he also, in in the Denman Chase was one of only 2 horses at the meeting to clock a final half mile faster than 60 seconds over hurdles and fences. So like, I don't know. I think he could be a Native River type for me. I think he could pick up the pieces if the others didn't stay, because Gaelic Warrior goes out too hard in front. I don't know. I might be completely wrong about Gaelic Warrior and the effect he's going to have on the tactics of this race. But if I was Paddy Mullins, surely I won't be doing the same thing as Leopardstown. That's all I can think in my head.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, what you think. But
Grey Dawning.
We're talking about Gaelic Warrior. Do you think 3 mile 2 is going to make a difference to him? I don't think he stays. I don't think he stays any better.
I didn't think he stayed either.
Warrior.
I'll tell you the reason I'm interested in him. We had Dan Skelton on TalkSport 2 last week, and he zoned in on 2 horses, the New Line and Grey Dawning. And if I told you he was more confident about Grey Dawning in his tone of voice and the way he talked about the setup of the race and the preparation this horse has had than he was about the champion hurdle favourite, you might think I was mad. But I went back and rewatched the Betfair Chase. Harry Skelton never touches the horse once. Harry Skelton never touched him. And I think they were probably happy with that. And now he comes into Cheltenham, 2 runs, fresh, probably bottomed his season last year when he got beaten by Royal Pagay in the Betfair Chase. This time around, he's totally unexposed over staying trips. He's never been tested in a Gold Cup before, which is a good thing. And I think he will stay because he won a Betfair Chase on the bridle. And he's a Grade 1 winner over on the new course.
Isn't it the beauty with these 3 milers though? Because it's like we just spoken about Heighty Floor and the fact that he pulled up in the Betfair Chase and he's like 8-1, and we just go, oh yeah, you can just ride to the line through that because he pulled up and like it was just awful. But I do take your point, actually, just because he finished 3rd last time, like people are always, I mean, you know, look at Iron Maximus. I mean, a lot of people could look at his 2nd at Leopardstown at Christmas and go, blimey, on that sort of ground, you know, and then he flops at the DRF. But these are the sorts of dynamics that the 3 mile hurdlers, chasers, they all do it. And as you say, actually, you know, I think if, again, going back to this as my sort of banking on Gaelic Warrior, making this a true test over 3 mile 2. I think Splains Tower quickened to beat Grey Dawning at Cheltenham. You know, he quickened up at Cheltenham when he won the Cotswold Chase, which in hindsight, when you go through it like that, actually, as you say, Harry wasn't tough on him because he was thinking Gold Cup, wasn't he? Splains Tower quickened. Splains Tower's not going to be able to do that this time. Grey Dawning's going to be primed. Yeah, I think I back Grey Dawning on a bet boost with another bookie, so I think I was pretty gutted.
I can understand why you would have been. Yeah, can Galopin Des Champs come roaring back and roll back the years, and he would only be the 2nd in the 101-year history of the race to regain the Gold Cup crown. The only other horse to do it, Codostar.
No, I think I know the way thinking broke his heart last year. So I definitely challenge any view that said that he wasn't himself before the Gold Cup, because I think he showed like serious turns of foot to win like the Savills Chase in 24, and I think that specifically it's his lack of turn of foot this season and his lack of versatility that has really put me off him, because it's funny, everyone has this vision of him at Cheltenham where he just galloped his rivals into submission. He was this amazing stayer, and don't get me wrong, he is a phenomenal stayer. His FSP of 103%, when he had an FSP of 103% when he won the Gold Cup in 2024 because he outstayed everyone. But in the Irish Gold Cup in 2024, he had an FSP of 114%. Like, he's that sort of horse that's been phenomenally versatile. And that, I think, in my head, is why I think I know the way you're thinking broke his heart last year. Because, I mean, I might not be able to get back to this quick enough for it to be an interesting talking
You think
point
I know the way you're
not.
thinking did to him what he did to Brave Man's Game in this race?
Exactly. And his top speed in the Savills Chase is like in 2025, so the most recent Savills Chase, I think is the slowest top speed he's recorded in our database. He just didn't quicken. He had no verve about him, and that's what really puts me off him, because I just think the old Galopan would have at least been able to quicken a bit. I've got the breakdown of the final fence. I know the way you're thinking approach the final fence in the Gold Cup at 33.2 miles an hour. The final fence in the Gold Cup at 33.2 miles an hour. Galopan was only 31.82, but when I say only, like, they both quickened up. So I know the way you're thinking, and Galopan both approached second last faster than 33 miles an hour. But I know the way you're thinking could maintain that. And I think Galopan was probably always used, he's getting a bit older. He was always used to be able to quicken and put the race to bed. And I think I know the way you're thinking is just broken him. It's just, yeah, that's right. In the Savills Chase, he only hit 32.4 miles an hour, which, when you compare that to the turn of foot he's previously shown, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but on good ground or yielding ground at Christmas, he should have been able to produce more than that, even if he was only race half it. Before we came on air, you were talking about the Irish Gold Cup at DRF, and they didn't go a particularly strong gallop, and fact file wasn't tested over 3 miles and everything. But then why wasn't Galopan closer? Like, fact file didn't really quicken. He had an FSB of 102%. So if that was the case, how was Galopan still finishing with an FSB of 98%? How is he still slowing up on his home track? Like, that is where we have seen the best of Galopan. And I do completely take the point. Like, I was quite happy to rule under Savills Chase 24. Like, that was a really tough assignment for him. First run back, race fit rivals. Affdale Fury was thriving on quick ground. But I really hope to see a better horse.
Yeah.
In the Irish Gold Cup, and it's not that long ago. It's a quick turnaround. As I say, I think his heart looked broken at Leopardstown in the Irish Gold Cup. That is my gut feeling.
Who is the novice hurdler that you are most confident about winning at the Cheltenham Festival?
Old Park Star.
Who is the novice chaser you're most confident about? Cargeezy?
Yes.
Kate Doughty for the Brown Advisory?
Cargeezy.
Chances.
I'll tell you what, no. Go back to the novice hurdlers. Do you count the Triumph in novice hurdlers?
We can. You don't, but we can.
Okay, can I go Manella Study then? I really, really like him.
Okay. 7-1 with 1xBet. I'm going to say no to that. Okay, so technically speaking, you've got Old Park Star for the Supreme. You've now put up Manella Study for the Triumph Hurdle as well. We're going Cargeezy.
We'll have to go slightly longer so I can go the New Line in the Champion Hurdle.
Okay, we're going to go Cargeezy for the Arkle. We're going the New Line. And then that brings me to the Chasers. Champion Chase, Ryanair, Gold Cup. Who are you going with?
Django by Madgeborough. He will jump.
Okay. It's been a pleasure, Paige. Where can Final Furlong podcast viewers and listeners get more access to RaceiQ data?
So the pack that I've been quoting, did also put it together, so I'm not just copying everyone else's work. Just need to point that out. The RaceiQ Cheltenham Festival pack is available to download on the Racing TV website, and you'll also find all of the RaceiQ metrics available on the result pages there. So if you want to dive in a bit further, fill in some of the holes that I definitely left out on my way through, go and find it. There's also a couple of very interesting selections from our Racing TV analysts as well. So Josh Kerr, Angus McNay, Andy Stevens, and one of our data scientists as well. So yeah, there's plenty more on top of that. I know we've gone on for 2 hours now, but I promise you there's even more interesting stuff in there. And you might actually disagree with some of the things I've said today based on what the data has told us. And I think that's a beautiful thing about the data, which I'm glad that I don't have to explain it anymore, but the data is up for interpretation. These are just my views. They are from my jockeying experience as well as the data, but you guys could look in there and go, just take something completely different from it. And I think that's the beauty of it and why it's so enjoyable.
And thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Thoroughly enjoyed all the insight from Paige, as I always do whenever she comes on the show. And please God, we'll have Paige on before all of the other major festivals that will be covered by Racing TV and the RaceiQ data as well. Smash a like in this episode if you liked it, and I hope you did, especially if you're with us for this length of time. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode for more content, including the daily previews for Cheltenham 2026 from Paige Fuller and me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.
Thanks for spending some time with us on the Final Furlong podcast. We're independent media, so if you like what we do, hit like, share, and subscribe. It's free, it's quick, and it genuinely helps. And if you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more where that came from. Don't miss out. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major platforms, and join us on the gravy train. The Final Furlong podcast, independent, unfiltered, and powered by you.